Hey there, and welcome. Today, we are diving into a massive literary revolution, a time when poetry got completely turned on its head. And believe it or not, it all kicked off with two friends who basically decided the heart was way more important than the head.
So let's start with a big question, just to frame this whole thing. What if feelings were actually more important than facts? I mean, what if your imagination was more powerful than cold, hard logic? At the end of the 18th century, that exact idea sparked a fire that totally changed literature forever.
And look, we're not talking about a small shift here. This was a full-blown revolution in poetry. The old ways of writing, of thinking, of feeling, well, they were all about to be flipped upside down.
Right here, you can kind of see the battle lines being drawn. The era before this, the Age of Reason, was all about the head. Logic, strict rules, what's best for society. But the Romantics, they came in and championed the heart, all about emotion, imagination, freedom, and the power of the individual. A complete 180.
So what even is Romanticism? First, let's clear something up because this is a big one. It is not just about love poems. Romanticism was this huge literary movement that celebrated deep emotion, the wildness of nature, the power of your own imagination, and the spirit of the individual. It was all about pushing back against the stuffy, strict rules of the time.
At its heart, this whole thing was a rebellion. The Romantics were reacting against what they saw as this cold, mechanical logic that was taking over. They were just so tired of the fake, overly polished language in poetry, the constant focus on fancy high society, and this rigid idea that following the rules was more important than actual, genuine human feeling.
And this revolution didn't just kind of happen over time. Nope, it pretty much exploded. There was one specific year, one single moment, that basically lit the fuse for this whole movement. That year, 1798. Seriously, burn that date into your memory. It's this massive turning point in English literature. It's the year the old world of poetry died and a brand new one was born. So what was the catalyst for such a huge shift? Was it a war, a royal decree? Not even close. It was a single, kind of unassuming book of poems called Lyrical Ballads. This one collection was the spark that started the fire. And behind this game-changing book were two poets, two buddies who had one shared vision: to bring poetry back to everyday people, back to nature, and back to the human heart.
So meet the architects of this revolution, William Wordsworth and Samuel Taylor Coleridge. A good way to think of them is like this. Wordsworth was the soul of nature. He's the one who grounded poetry in the real world and the lives of regular people. Coleridge, on the other hand, he was the wings of imagination. His mind went to the supernatural, to dreams, to all things mysterious. Two totally different approaches, but they came together to create one incredibly powerful movement.
So, how did these two really different styles actually work together? Well, it created this amazing dynamic, this sort of tension between the natural world and the supernatural world that became the real heartbeat of Romanticism.
You can see their different vibes perfectly in how they looked at nature. For Wordsworth, nature was a spiritual guide, a healer, something that gave you comfort and wisdom. He literally saw the divine in just everyday outdoor stuff. But for Coleridge, nature was way more mysterious, symbolic, and sometimes, honestly, terrifying. It was a mirror for the soul's biggest struggles, and the perfect backdrop for something supernatural to go down. Listen to Wordsworth here in his poem, Tintern Abbey. He's not just describing a pretty view. He's feeling a presence, a sense sublime. See, for him, nature isn't just scenery. It's this powerful, spiritual force that connects his mind to the whole universe.
Now contrast that with Coleridge. In the Rime of the Ancient Mariner, the main character commits this crime against nature. He's only saved when he finally sees the beauty in some simple sea creatures. A spring of love just gushes from his heart. Here, nature becomes the key to his redemption, reflecting his whole inner journey from sin to salvation.
They also had these totally different takes on imagination. Wordsworth's special skill was using his imagination to make ordinary, everyday things seem extraordinary. He'd use simple, common language to get at these really deep feelings. Coleridge's imagination, though, it was all about building entirely new, dreamlike worlds from scratch. He was diving into magic, mystery, and visions, reshaping reality into something fantastic.
Take this line from Wordsworth. He's writing about seeing a lone woman singing in a field. The song itself ends, but his imagination grabs that brief moment and makes it eternal. It's music he carries in his heart forever. He finds the extraordinary right there in the ordinary.
And then you've got Coleridge. I mean, wow, this is from Kubla Khan, a poem he famously wrote after having a dream. A pleasure dome, a sacred river, caverns measureless to man. This is not the real world. This is pure, unfiltered imagination, just creating a mystical world right in front of us.
So, who were the heroes in their poems? Well, you might be surprised. This is where they actually overlap a bit. Both poets focus on the common man, which was a really revolutionary idea for the time. Wordsworth wrote about shepherds, farmers, wanderers, celebrating the dignity of a simple life. Coleridge also wrote about common people, but he'd throw them into uncommon situations. We're talking sailors facing ghost ships, maidens dealing with curses. It was reality meeting fantasy.
Okay, so this all happened over 200 years ago. Why should we care? Why does any of this Romanticism stuff still matter today? Let's connect the dots, because it really does.
You can see the legacy of the Romantics literally everywhere. Anytime you go for a hike just to clear your head. That's Wordsworth's belief in the healing power of nature in action. Ever get totally lost in a fantasy world like Harry Potter or Avatar? You're tapping right into Coleridge's wild imagination. Songwriters who use simple words for deep feelings, our love for supernatural movies, it all traces right back to the ideas these two poets set loose on the world.
When you boil it all down, the Romantics left us with this really powerful, lasting legacy. They taught us about the healing power of nature, they championed our own individual feelings, they gave all of us permission to just dream and imagine. And maybe the most important thing, they remind us to slow down and find real beauty in the simple, ordinary moments of our lives.
And that kind of brings us to a final thought. In our world today, a world that's so driven by data, algorithms, and AI, is it possible that we need the ideals of the Romantics that focus on emotion, imagination, and connecting with nature? Is it possible we need that stuff now more than ever? It's definitely something to think about.